today's video review, we're going to be talking about the Invicta Grand Diver, model 3044. Let's get right into it. For price, you're looking at price ranging from $80 to $130, depending on which model you get. This specific model that I own, I purchased off of Amazon for $100 before taxes. Let's go ahead and do a quick 360 just so you can see it in different angles of light and not just from a picture. There is the engraving of Grand Diver right there on the side and a display case back showing that NH35A auto movement. Here's the other side. For dimensions, we're looking at a case diameter of about 47 millimeters without the crown, and with the crown about 52, and then a case thickness a whopping 17 millimeters, and then a band thickness or band width of, let's call that 22 millimeters. For weight, we're looking at 223 grams or 7 3/4 ounces. And here is the wrist shot for you. I do have a 8 to 7.5 inch wrist, so pretty thick wrist. For functions and features, starting off, we've got a 120 click bezel here, as well as 300 meters of water resistance. You can see the date window and the date cyclops, and a screw down crown, which is always a good thing to have in my opinion. A quick demonstration of the bezel. It works great. I've had no issues with it. Each click has been very solid, very minimal backplay, or no more backplay than in any of my higher quality watches, and lines up just right. We've got those wonderfully applied indexes and Loom as well, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Loom. And there's the Loom. It's not the best I've seen, but it's also not the worst I've seen. At this price range, I think it's perfectly acceptable. I will say Loom is probably one of the things that Invicta is not very strong in at all. So if you're buying this watch, definitely don't buy it for the Loom. And just for a size reference, here is the Grand Diver sitting next to the Pro Diver, so you can get a general idea of the difference in size. And I'll go ahead and show you the difference, what it looks like on the wrist. And there you go. As you can see, the Pro Diver is much more conservative in its dimensions, whereas the Grand Diver is a little bit more bold. As far as the bracelet goes, very standard bracelet style. You've got the split pin system, so very easy to adjust on your own. You can see that you've got the brushed finish for the outer links and then a polished finish on the center links. I would have preferred a brushed finish on the whole bracelet. I'm not too much of a fan of this polished finish just because it's got a high scratch factor, but all in all, it's perfectly acceptable. And the clasp, very good quality clasp. Normally at this price range you would expect a stamped steel, so the fact that you're getting this style is just a great thing. So now just going over my personal thoughts, things that I like about the Grand Diver and things that I don't like. Starting off with what I like, number one is value. At around $100, I really do think I am getting a fair price for what I am receiving. Starting off with the really good quality bezel, to the screw down crown, to the NH35 movement, and this style of clasp. At this price range, you can't go wrong with the Grand Diver. It is a good quality watch. Obviously, you're not going to compare it to other watches that it is inspired from, but on its own, without comparing it to anything else, just for a new collector or for somebody who's just looking for a reliable watch, this is great value. Now going over something that I really don't like about the Grand Diver is the dimensions. And when I say dimensions, I'm talking about thickness. That 17 millimeter thickness doesn't really match the overall style of the Grand Diver. Now you look at the design and I think it's elegant, but then when you look at it on its side, it almost looks like a UFO. Here it is sitting on my wrist, and obviously it's going to look a lot worse because I'm holding it at this angle, but this is just a visual representation of, you know, just how thick it really is and how high it will sit up on your wrist. Ideally, if Invicta would be able to reduce how much this case back protrudes outwards by 4 millimeters, bringing the overall thickness to 13 millimeters, it would be maybe not perfect, but there'd be very little that you could criticize on the Grand Diver. But overall, to sum it all up, my personal opinion is I think the Grand Diver is an excellent choice for anybody looking for a budget-friendly automatic watch. The reason why I like it is, I know I was complaining about the dimensions before, but if we take out the thickness and we just look at the diameter, for me, having a larger wrist, I absolutely love the fact that there is an option out there for me to where it doesn't look as ridiculous. Now for some people with thinner wrists, having a watch of this size just looks silly. But for the rest of us who've got larger bones, you know, we're genetically inclined to be bigger, having a bigger watch makes sense for us, and I really do appreciate that. Another thing that I absolutely love about the Grand Diver is that, and I think I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, is that it is uniquely Invicta. So you see the Pro Diver right here, and I consider the Pro Diver as a blatant copy of the Rolex Submariner. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's up to you. That is your personal opinion. But for me, I just consider it a copy, straight up. If we removed the Invicta logo and we had a picture of it sitting next to a Rolex and the Rolex logo was removed, unless you were a professional watch connoisseur, you would be hard-pressed to determine which one was which. Whereas the Invicta Grand Diver, I think, has its own unique Invicta style, and I appreciate that more, and it means a lot more to me owning the Grand Diver versus the Pro Diver. The largest complaint that you are going to hear about the Grand Diver, aside from cosmetic design like the engravings, but as far as the functions go, the number one complaint will probably be the difficulty in turning the bezel. I've noticed that the texturing on the outer edge is not very grippy, but if you just grab the bezel from 3 to 12 and 6 to 9, it's not a problem at all. I've had no issue turning it. You know, if you try to grab it from here, I mean, even then it's not that difficult. So really, I think the people who were complaining about the bezel really just wanted to try and complain about something on the Grand Diver. But for those of you who aren't so inclined to blindly just hate on this watch, I will let you know that I have had no issues. I can understand where they're coming from, but also I'm not automatically going to hate a watch because of the company, so you know, there really hasn't been any issues with the bezel. So there you go. Those are my thoughts and my opinions on the Grand Diver. Again, I highly recommend it. If this is something that you have been interested in, I say go ahead and get it. Especially at the price point, you can't really go wrong. So that's all I got to say for now. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it helps you with your next watch purchase. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.